sacrifice of Imam al-Hussein has been mourned for thousands of years before 62 AH, when the armies of Umar Sa'd and Ibn Ziyad, under the orders of Yazid, killed the Imam along with his family and companions. The Prophet himself, along with Imam Ali and Imam al-Hasan, are reported on numerous occasions by historians of all denominations to have foretold this divine event, a sacrifice that not only saved Islam but inspired countless generations with the principles of love, honor and sacrifice. This series aims to decode how this event unfolded, looking at the most prominent characters and events in the lead up to the 10th of Muharram. With Kufa now under curfew and lockdown by Ibn Ziyad, attention was turned to the caravan of Imam al-Hussein, now on its way to Kufa. Ibn Ziyad knew there still remained many lovers of the Imam in the city. If he reaches Kufa, there is no telling what could happen. Ibn Ziyad therefore sends for one of the most renowned generals in Kufa.
Hurr ibn Yazeed Ar-riyahi is said to have mainly been from the tribe of Banu Tamim. In other words, there's a difference of opinion with historians whether he was from the tribe of Banu Tamim or whether he was from another tribe from Iraq. With regards to the lineage of Banu Tamim, if we take him to be from Banu Tamim, we understand that Banu Tamim actually come from Nabi Ismail. So there's an ancestor of Banu Tamim called Adnan, who was one of the grandsons, great-grandsons of Nabi Ismail salamullahi alayhi. And Banu Tamim was one of the largest of the clans of the Arabs, and they were situated in Kufa. And most of the scholars accept that Hurr was from this tribe. We are told, for example, that his cousin was a famous poet. His cousin was also one of the companions of the Holy Prophet of Islam sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And most notably, we are told about his life before Karbala. Of course, not much is known about these personalities before Karbala. We are told about the life of Hurr that if anyone was to be asked who is the most courageous in all of Kufa, every single person would accept that the most courageous person in Kufa is who? Hurr ibn Yazeed Ar-riyahi. Which is why we were told that he was selected by Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. There's also a book by the name of Absarul Ain fi Ansar al-Hussein. This book by Sheikh Samawi talks about the different Ansar, the different helpers and companions of Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi on the 10th of Muharram. In this book, again, we see that Sheikh Samawi, he categorizes Hurr as from Banu Tamim. So there's majority of scholars say that yes, he was from the Banu Tamim, this tribe of Banu Tamim. He mentions, كان الحر شريفا في قومه. Hurr was an honorable individual amongst his people. When? جاهلية وإسلاما. Hurr was an honorable individual, someone you could trust, someone people looked up to in his community, both in the period of Jahiliyyah before Islam and during the period of Islam. So there are certain companions who even before Islam, during the period of Jahiliyyah, they had certain very good qualities. Uthman ibn Mad'un, for example, he never drank alcohol during the period of Jahiliyyah. So in the same way, we are told Hurr, even before the advent of Islam, was what we call Sharif, honorable. When Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad becomes this governor of Kufa, as we know, before Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, the governor of Kufa was Nu'man ibn Bashir. So when this change and transition takes place, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad puts heavy security all over Kufa. And he places Hasin ibn Namir. Hasin ibn Namir was one of these individuals who was part and parcel of the tragedy of Karbala. Hasin ibn Namir was a general that worked under Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Hasin ibn Namir was one of the individuals that, for example, shot an arrow at Aliyun al-Akbar salamullahi alayhi on the 10th of Muharram. Hasin ibn Namir was put on the area of Qudsiyah. So if Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi would try and enter Kufa from this southern area, he would be stopped by who? Hasin ibn Namir. Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi, when he finds out that Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad has done such, he has taken Hasin ibn Namir and placed a large group of people at the southern border of Kufa. The Imam then tries to enter Kufa from the western side. However, entering Kufa from the western side is difficult. Why? Because it is a very hilly region. It's very difficult to get through that area. When this then takes place and the Imam starts traveling, going around the army of Hassan ibn Namir, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad then sends Hurr ibn Yazeed Ar-riyahi with 1,000, as we are told, 1,000 troops to then stop Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi wherever he is. So his job, the job of Hurr, is not to kill Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi, not to torture, not to give any anguish to Hussein ibn Ali salamullahi alayhi. His only job is to stop Imam Hussein and bring him to who? Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. So this was his job. This is what he was told to do. And so we are told with these 1,000 soldiers, Hurr leaves. When you look at the history, Hurr ibn Yazeed Ar-riyahi is said to, we can feel this from the pages of history, that he is confused. Because he knows who Imam Hussein is, he knows the status of Imam Hussein, but he has been ordered by Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad to take Imam Hussein and bring him with him. So often in the pages of history you find Hurr in a way being hesitant to actually get involved in this whole episode. In actual fact, he actually wanted to stand back and let whatever happens. At one point at the beginning, when he was ordered by Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, it was his wish that he just quickly brings Imam Hussein to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, then he leaves the whole story. In other words, he didn't want anything to do with this whole story of Karbala. We are told that Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi, as he is going with his people towards the western side of the border of Kufa, someone says, Allahu Akbar. Someone cries out loudly, Allahu Akbar. The books of Maqtal say Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi replies and says, Allahu Akbar. This happens once or twice or three times. Then the Imam says, what has happened? Why have you done takbir? He says, look, you can see palm trees. Never have I seen palm trees in this area of the Arabian world. So Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi said, yes, palm trees are not possible to be grown in this area. Maybe it's something else. So one of the companions of Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi says, look, in actual fact, it looks like afar, it's the head of horses. So it's not palm trees, it's actually what? The head of a lot of horses. So Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi realizes that even on this part of the border, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad has sent people to stop Imam Hussein entering into Kufa. Then Imam salamullahi alayhi in the Maqtal, he says something. He says, let us take another route so that we can face this army, this group of 1,000 soldiers front on. So not from the back. If we face them from the back, this could be an ambush. This is not the way in which we have our military tactics. We'll face them from the front. So the honesty of Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi was this. When then Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi takes this other route to then face Hurr ibn Yazeed and his army from the front, they meet the 1,000 soldiers of Hurr at an area by the name of Dhu Husum. In this area then Hurr ibn Yazeed says, Umirna إذا نحن لقيناك ألا نفارقك حتى نقدمك على عبيد الله ibn Ziyad. We have been ordered that if we meet you, that what do? We bring you to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. This was the job of Hurr ibn Yazeed Ar-riyahi. And this is why Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad had dispatched him with these 1,000 soldiers. So when they meet here, then a lot of different events take place. His conversations with Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi, which are said to be triggers to then what happens on the 10th of Muharram.
Hurr ibn Yazeed Ar-riyahi, one of the most decorated generals in Kufa, was hired by Ibn Ziyad to intercept Imam al-Hussein and stop him from reaching the city. Hurr, an honorable man, had no allegiances to the Caliphate or Ibn Ziyad, but a general with his own army, which was common in Kufa. For him, this was a job where he'd be able to earn a living and support his soldiers. He agreed and set out to intercept Imam al-Hussein. This appointment is made towards the end of Dhul Hijjah, a couple of weeks before the 10th of Muharram.
We are told that when Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi reaches this place of Dhu Husn, the water source is in control of the Imam. As we understand, Hurr ibn Yazeed and his 1,000 soldiers, they are running out of water. They don't have water. They are very thirsty. They see that Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi has control of this water source. We are also told that when Imam Hussein Salamullahi alayhi first meets Hurr, all of the people with Imam Hussein had their swords in their hands, unsheathed. Imam Hussein Salamullahi alayhi then talks to Hurr. Ahlul Bayt alayhim wasalam, they will never start the warfare. Even if you look on the 10th of Muharram, the warfare was started by who? Umar ibn Sa'd. He shot the first arrow. So Imam Hussein Salamullahi alayhi, he goes up to Hurr, he speaks to Hurr, he sees that Hurr is thirsty. So Imam Hussein Salamullahi alayhi tells Hurr and his 1,000 soldiers to take their horses and themselves to the riverbank and quench their thirst. And right enough, all of the 1,000 soldiers take their horses, the horses drink from the water, and each of the soldiers. This is the generosity of Imam Hussein Salamullahi alayhi, the hilm and the clemency of Imam Hussein Salamullahi alayhi, that someone who is stopping me and my family on my tracks to go to Kufa, who is making my life endangered, I will still give him and his animals water. After then we are told, when all of the army of Hurr ibn Yazeed is given water, they go to their tents. Imam Hussein Salamullahi alayhi then comes out of his tent with a cloak, with shoes and a turban. He comes to Hurr and he says, we want to lead and pray our salah in Jama'ah. You can also lead your army in your congregation. Hurr says, no. We all want to pray our salah behind you. Imam Hussein Salamullahi alayhi says, fine. So each and every single one of Hurr ibn Yazeed Ar-riyahi's army prays salah behind Imam Hussein Salamullahi alayhi and his army. So this shows us already that Hurr has a lot of respect for Imam Hussein. He knows who this individual is, and he wants to pray behind him. Then we are told, after all of this takes place, Imam Hussein Salamullahi alayhi begins to travel. So with his people, they've stopped, they've had the water, they've given them water, he's traveling. He wants to see what Hurr will do. As he is traveling again, maybe a few meters, they reach 100, 200 meters. Hurr again stops Imam Hussein in his track. Imam Hussein says, "O Hurr, may your mother mourn over your death. What are you doing?" So of course, as we know in the Arabic language, there are different expressions and figurative ways within which a certain thing is said. Imam Hussein Salamullahi alayhi says, "May your mother mourn for your death. What are you doing?" Again here we can see specks from the ma'rifah of Hurr ibn Yazeed. He says, "O Hussein, if anyone else had said this to me in the position we are right now, I would have said the same thing about his mother. But I cannot help and mention your mother Fatima Salamullahi alayha with respect and fairness." In other words, Hurr ibn Yazeed, even though he is sent to stop Imam Hussein, he knows the status of Hussein ibn Ali and wants to pray behind him, and he knows the status of his mother Salamullahi alayha, that he won't speak bad about her. Hurr then mentions, "Look, I am taking you to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. This is my job. This is why I have come here to intercept you." Then we are told again when Imam Hussein begins talking to him. They have different conversations. Imam Hussein again and again mentions, for example, the people of Kufa. Why? Because of all of the letters that were written. Again and again and again he mentions, he gives sermons in front of his people, in front of the people of Hurr, directed towards Kufa. "O people of Kufa, if what you have written is true, then I am ready for you. If what you have written is false, then I will turn and go elsewhere." So when he is saying this, Hurr says, "Wait a minute. Which letters are you talking about? I haven't heard anything about any letters written to you." When Imam Hussein Salamullahi alayhi mentions the letters written to him by the people of Kufa, Hurr says, "I have no idea about these letters." So we are told Imam Hussein tells one of his companions to go into the tent, and they bring out 2 sacks filled with letters, and the Imam says, "Look, why am I going to Kufa? Because all of these people have written to me." When Hurr hears this, he then understands that Imam Hussein Salamullahi alayhi is going with a purpose. We are told then that Hurr says, "We will make an agreement." The books of Maqtal say, Hurr says to Imam Hussein, "We will make an agreement. I'll meet you halfway." This is exactly what he says. "I'll meet you halfway. You go wherever you want. I'll take my people away. I will write to Don't go to Kufa, don't go to Medina. Go wherever else you want. I will write to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, saying that I have been unable to restrain you and you are in this certain area. You then recite to Yazid and Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, telling them your situation, that you will not give allegiance and the whole story. This is, I will meet you here halfway. Here again we understand, Hurr ibn Yazeed Ar-riyahi is not someone that wants to get involved in this. He's telling Imam Hussein, look, I will give you some leeway. Hurr in actual fact says, you then sort it out with Yazid and Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. I'll leave you to go. Don't go to Medina, don't go to Kufa. Go anywhere else. I will take my people back to Kufa. And you then deal with Ubaydullah and Yazid in the way that you want to deal with them. These conversations that Hurr ibn Yazeed Ar-riyahi has with Imam Hussein show us that there was still in his heart affection towards Ahlul Bayt, affection towards Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi. And he was not happy with the role that he was given by Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Which is why again and again he was expressing this unhappiness with regards to his role as this general of this army.
Hurr's respect and reverence for the Imam is quite clear. He prays behind the Imam and knows full well that he has a clear status as the grandson of the Prophet. He seems uneasy about what he sees transpiring, so he therefore tries to reason with Ibn Ziyad.
As we understand, Hurr ibn Yazid sends different messengers to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, informing him of the situation. So letters are sent to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Ubaydullah then writes letters back to Hurr. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad tells Hurr, keep Hussein ibn Ali salamullahi alayhi in a place where there is very little water and very few people. Very few people so that no one can support Imam Hussein. If we then want to kill Imam Hussein, no one will come to support him, no one will see what we have done. And very little water so that we can make them thirsty, keep them thirsty. Hurr then says to Imam Hussein, he says, Ya Hussein ibn Ali, are you sure you want to carry on with this journey? Are you 100% sure? I am fearful for your life. Hurr is saying this. In other words, Hurr did not want the life of Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi to end. He didn't want him to die and be killed. I am fearful for your life. I think you should turn back. Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi says, Hurr, you are scaring me from death? What is death in front of me? And so they carry on. Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi has no fear for death. They carry on, and as we understand, Hurr then stops Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi in the area known as Karbala. So when Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi then sets foot on this land of Karbala, he speaks to Banu Asad, the tribe that is there. They are still today, Banu Asad are found in Karbala. He speaks to them, he says, what is the name of this land? So someone said, for example, Taf or Ghadiriyat. He says, no, is there another name? Alaha ismun akhar. Then someone, an old man from Banu Asad came and said, yes, there's an old name of this place called Karbala. Karban wa Bala. Then Imam Hussein salamullah alayhi says, yes, this is the place where I have been told by my grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and my grandfather has been told by Allah through Jibreel that this is the place where I will be killed.
We see in this period Ibn Ziyad's adamant stance to corner the Imam into a difficult terrain. One wonders whether allegiance from the Imam was ever even on his mind. Was the plan to have the Imam killed whatever the circumstance?
Hurr is then seeing that Hussein ibn Ali has stopped here in Karbala. Hurr is then seeing that 4,000. Hurr was with how many? 1,000. He sees 4,000 troops are sent with the leadership of Umar ibn Sa'd. And they enter into Karbala one day after Imam Hussein enters. So if the books of history, generally speaking, say that Imam Hussein entered 2nd of Muharram, Umar ibn Sa'd with 4,000 entered when? 3rd of Muharram. And there's slight differences in the books. Umar ibn Sa'd then enters with 4,000 troops. Hurr is asking, what's going on? I was only told I have to take Hussein ibn Ali, and whoever is with him to who? Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Why are now 4,000 troops coming here? What is the intention of you? Why have you come? And we are told actually Umar ibn Sa'd, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad had said Umar ibn Sa'd will give orders to Hurr ibn Yazid. So Hurr originally was the general of the 1,000. Now Umar ibn Sa'd is the general of the 5,000 total. Umar ibn Sa'd says, yes, our intention is to kill Hussein ibn Ali. The books of Maqtal mention Hurr ibn Yazid is shocked. rahmatullah. He's shocked. He says, what? To kill the grandson of the Prophet? He says, it's the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Is there any greater crime than this? Umar ibn Sa'd says, yes, this is a very big crime, no doubt. And if it was up to me, according to some books, Umar ibn Sa'd says, if it was up to me, I would not have killed Hussein. But our Amir has ordered this. Now let's not forget, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad has ordered. He is himself being ordered by who? Yazid. So Yazid has made this in such a way that he takes a step back and puts Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad and Umar ibn Sa'd in the forefront.
Yazid grew up in the house of a king like Caliph. As already discussed, he was referred to as the first ever crown prince in Islam. A man brought up in luxury, used to getting exactly what he wanted, spoilt without the need to be tactical or strategic in his decisions. It's therefore no surprise that he was adamant and forthcoming in instigating Ibn Ziyad to kill Imam al-Hussein. His mentality and upbringing again is another clue as to how Karbala and the events of Ashura transpired.
When Umar ibn Sa'd says, why to kill Hussein ibn Ali, Hurr then has a complete change over himself. He's shocked. He had no idea that it was for this reason that Imam Hussein was stopped in Karbala. And he mentions this to Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi afterwards. And then he says that I see myself choosing between Bain al-Jannah wa nar. Hurr then is, we are told, shivering, he's shaking. In other words, it's having a physical effect on his body. He's shaking. One of the people of the army of Umar ibn Sa'd comes to him and says, Hurr, you are, if someone was to ask me who is the most courageous, I wouldn't think twice and I'd say your name. Why are you shaking? Why are you shivering? He says, there's something I have to do. Then we see Hurr is walking towards the camp of Imam Hussein. Someone shouts out, Hurr, are you going to make a truce with Hussein? Hurr doesn't reply. We are told he has a white handkerchief. As we know, the sign, the color white is to show peace. And he takes his handkerchief and he ties his own hands with it. And we are told his son is also with him, with Hurr. Hurr then comes to Imam Hussein. Shivering, his emotions are covering his whole body. And he says, Ya Aba Abdullah, Ya ibn Rasulullah, I had no idea that they wanted to kill you. All I was told was to take you and bring you to Kufa. If I knew that they would have done this, I would have rebelled against them. I had no idea. Imam Hussein salamullah alayhi says, Hurr, I have accepted your repentance. And Allah is the best of forgivers. Then we are told Hurr, as he is sitting on his horse, Imam Hussein tells him to come off his horse and come into the tents. Hurr says, no, I'm going to die either now or either after an hour. So let me go now and fight. We are told Hurr and Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, they go together. And Hurr mentions, he has his lines of poetry, he says, I will not die until I have killed. And he mentions about his sword and the number of people that he will kill, and he goes to the battlefield. And of course he was Hurr ibn Yazeed. He was known for his courage, and he kills many people. Before he dies, he says, O people of Kufa, you invited this righteous slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Imam Hussein, and then you put him in the hands of his own enemy. So he was addressing the people of Kufa. And he went and he gave his life for Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi. As we understand, every single martyr on the 10th of Muharram, Imam Hussein goes to that person. If it is possible, he takes the person's head and puts it in his lap, and he consoles the person in the last moments of his life. Same thing the Imam does with Hurr. He says, Bakhin, bakhin ya Hurr. Anta Hurr kama summita fi dunya wal akhirah. You are free in the way that you have been named. You are free in this world and the next. And we see throughout this whole story of Hurr, he had these certain sparks within his heart, which during the time when it came to choose between right and wrong, he chose the path of Imam Hussein salamullah.
Herein lies another clue to how this massacre took place. The religion of Islam had moved so far away from what was revealed to the Prophet, you had so-called Muslims who were able to commit such crimes. Adherence to the principles of Islam had become so alien, People weren't able to recognize the difference between right and wrong in the same way that Hurr was able to distinguish between truth and falsehood.
When we look at this story of Hurr ibn Yazeed Ar-riyahi rahmatullah alayh, and we want to reflect on our own selves, we have decisions in our life. We have right and wrong in business, in family relations, in every area of life. We have this right and wrong. When we see ourselves then constantly choosing the wrong path, the path that takes us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need to look at this life of Hurr. And ulama tell us that there are 3 or 4 things that are shown through the books of history, which allowed him then to accept the truth when it came in front of him. The Quran mentions, لهم قلوب لا يفقهون بها لهم أعين لا يبصرون بها لهم آذان لا يسمعون بها أولئك كالأنعام بل هم أضل. The Quran mentions people that have hearts, they don't think with these hearts, they don't perceive with this heart. They have eyes, but they don't see. They have ears, but they don't hear. They are like cattle, like sheep. بل هم أضل. They are even worse than sheep and cattle. Why? Because the sheep, it doesn't have aql. But the human being was given this intellect and still he chooses the wrong path. Why? Why do people's hearts, like the people on the side of Umar ibn Sa'd, like Shimr ibn al-Jawshan and these individuals, why were their hearts so hardened and blackened? What had happened that they were unable to see the truth? Hurr ibn Yazeed, number 1, he showed akhlaq. When it came to addressing Imam Hussein, when it came to addressing the mother of Imam Hussein, he showed akhlaq. Akhlaq keeps light within this heart of ours. And this was a sign that he was an individual who worked on himself. He showed this akhlaq. He didn't speak back at Imam Hussein salamullah alayhi. Number 2, he gave importance to salah. And he wanted to pray salatul jama'ah. In other words, he gave importance to ahkam. If someone gives importance to religious rulings, automatically the heart is cleansed and they can choose right between right and wrong. The 3rd thing, he had respect for Ahlul Bayt, and most importantly, Sayyidah Zahra salamullahi alayha. If love and respect of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wasalam is in the heart, then we will be taken to the right path. If love of Ahlul Bayt is there, and he had love for Sayyidah Zahra salamullahi alayha when he mentioned. The last thing often which we forget is he pondered over the situation. Tafakkur, he thought about what is going on. Often we go through lives without thinking. He thought about what is happening. He used the aql that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. These 4 things then allowed him to choose the right path when this decision came in front of him.